Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that you probably see every time you go out to eat, but probably don't think too much about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Those little square QR codes that are popping up on restaurant tables everywhere. The question is, are they just a fad, or are they the future?
That's a great question. What's really fascinating is how these QR codes are actually connected to much bigger trends that we're seeing in the restaurant industry.
What kind of trends?
Well, things like, digitization automation, even how restaurants are trying to use technology to, manage costs and things like that.
Okay, so maybe there's more to those little black and white squares than meets the eye. So to get to the bottom of it, we've got some excerpts from a QR menu provider's blog.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's called Menuville, so we'll see what they have to say.
And we'll be sure to consider that perspective alongside other information to give you a well-rounded view.
Exactly. By the end of this deep dive, you'll know exactly how these menus work, the pros and cons, and maybe even some insider tips to impress your friends next time you're out to eat.
You might even have enough information to, help your favorite local spot up their QR code game.
All right, let's start with the basics. Can you just explain what a QR code menu is, for anyone who might not have encountered one yet?
Sure. Yeah. Think of it like a secret doorway to a digital menu hidden in that little square. You use your phone's camera to scan it, and then boom, you're suddenly browsing a website with pictures of the food descriptions, maybe even videos of the dishes being prepared.
Videos, huh? So it's more than just like a digital version of that paper menu they used to bring to your table.
Exactly. It's about, creating an experience.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to stop there. Some places will even let you order and pay right from your phone.
Wow.
Imagine never having to flag down a server for the check again. Now, that's what I call efficiency. Speaking of efficiency, our sources mention a bunch of different companies that are providing these QR code menu services. There's obviously Menuville, who we're hearing from today. Also Square, a name that many people probably recognize from other businesses. What other big players are out there?
One that stands out to me is Beacon Stack.
Okay.
They offer a lot of customization options, so, restaurants can really tailor the look and feel of the menu to match their brand. And they're also known for their advanced analytics, so, giving restaurants data on what customers are actually looking at and ordering.
Data analytics, huh? Sounds like there's a whole other layer to this we'll have to unpack later. But first, let's talk about why restaurants are so enthusiastic about these QR code menus.
Yeah, well, from a practical standpoint, contactless ordering is a big one. This obviously gained a lot of traction during the pandemic for obvious reasons.
Right.
But it's something that a lot of diners still prefer today, right? It appeals to the germaphobe in all of us. No more handling those laminated menus that have been touched by hundreds of people. Plus, I imagine it also speeds things up too, right?
Absolutely. If customers can just input their orders directly, it frees up staff for other tasks, and it's also more accurate. You're the one punching in your order, so there's less room for error.
Yeah.
Think about how frustrating it is when they get your order messed up because of a miscommunication with the server.
Oh, yes. Or that moment when you've finally decided what you want, only to be told they're all out of it. Happens to the best of us.
Well, with a QR code menu, that's less likely to happen. Restaurants can update it in real time, so what you're seeing is always accurate.
Oh.
And it's also a game changer for things like daily specials or limited time offers.
Ooh, I like that.
Imagine getting a notification on your phone like, hey, the chef just whipped up an amazing new dessert. Check it out on the menu.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. I'm all about those exclusive limited time offers. It makes you feel like you're in the know. But those real-time updates, they also benefit the restaurant too, right?
Definitely. Think about it. Like if the price of salmon goes up, they can adjust it on the menu instantly.
Yeah.
No need to reprint hundreds of menus every time there's a price fluctuation.
That makes a lot of sense. So we're talking cost savings efficiency and a better customer experience all around.
Yeah.
But it can't be all sunshine and roses, right? There have to be some downsides to using these digital menus. What are some of the challenges that restaurants might face?
Well, for starters, not everyone is comfortable with technology. Some people, particularly older generations, might prefer a traditional paper menu.
Yeah, like my grandma, she still gets confused by the self-checkout at the grocery store. I can't imagine trying to teach her how to order from a QR code menu.
Exactly. And even if someone is comfortable with the technology, there's always the chance of technical difficulties. What if the internet goes down or the customer's phone battery dies right as they're about to order?
Okay, those are valid points. It's like relying on technology for anything. There's always that element of risk. But let's say everything is working perfectly. The internet's blazing fast. Your phone is fully charged. You're feeling tech savvy. Are there any other reasons someone might prefer a traditional menu?
Well, some people just enjoy the tactile experience of holding a physical menu. It's part of the ritual of dining out.
I get that. There's something satisfying about flipping through a well-designed menu, feeling the weight of the paper, seeing the dishes laid out in front of you.
Yeah, it engages different senses, and plus, let's be honest, sometimes you just want to disconnect and enjoy a meal without staring at a screen.
Absolutely. I'm all for technology when it enhances the experience, but it shouldn't become a barrier to actually enjoying the moment. So it sounds like there's a case to be made for both digital and traditional menus. How do restaurants decide which approach is best for them?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll delve into further in the next part of our deep dive. All right, cliffhanger. I'm intrigued. We'll be back in just a moment to tackle that very question and explore some even more fascinating aspects of this QR code revolution.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before the break, we were talking about the pros and cons of QR code menus and how restaurants are trying to find the right balance between those digital and traditional dining experiences.
It's a challenge, isn't it? Trying to meet those evolving expectations of customers, but also thinking about practical factors like cost and efficiency and accessibility.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dive into that question we left you with. How do restaurants decide which approach is best for them? Is it as simple as picking a side team QR code or team paper menu?
I don't think it's ever that black and white. A lot of it depends on, the type of restaurant, the clientele they serve.
Right.
A fast casual spot that's catering to a younger tech-savvy crowd might go all in on digital, but, a fine dining establishment might stick with traditional menus to maintain a certain ambiance. Yeah, that makes sense. It's about tailoring the experience to the expectations of your customers. But let's imagine a restaurant has decided to embrace QR codes. What are some things they need to consider to make sure it's a success?
Well, first and foremost, the menu itself needs to be well designed. Clear layout, high-quality photos, easy navigation. You want people to enjoy using it, not get frustrated trying to find what they're looking for.
Right, because a poorly designed digital menu can be just as annoying as like a stained, ripped-up paper menu. Doesn't exactly create a great first impression.
Exactly. And remember, a QR code menu isn't just a static PDF, it's a website.
Oh, right.
So restaurants have an opportunity to get really creative with the design and the functionality. Things like interactive elements, videos showcasing the dishes, even personalized recommendations based on your past orders.
Personalized recommendations. That sounds almost too good to be true. Like the menu knows me better than I know myself.
It's all part of that larger trend towards personalization we're seeing across so many industries. But it does raise some interesting questions about data privacy, which is something we should definitely talk about.
Okay, let's go there, because whenever you start talking about personalized recommendations and data collection, I can't help but get a little creeped out. Like, is the restaurant going to be selling my data to some third-party company that's going to start bombarding me with ads for pizza every time I open my phone?
I mean, that's the valid concern, and it's one that restaurants need to be transparent about.
Right.
It's about striking a balance between providing those personalized experiences while also respecting customer privacy.
So how do they do that? What does responsible data collection look like in the context of QR code menus?
Well, for starters, restaurants should be upfront about what data they're collecting and why.
Okay.
They should give customers the option to opt out of data collection if they prefer. And of course, they need to ensure that any data they do collect is stored securely and not shared with third parties without the customer's consent.
That makes sense. It's about giving customers control over their own data. But let's move beyond the design and data privacy aspects for a moment. What about the practical side of things? How does using QR codes impact the workflow for restaurant staff?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, it can really streamline a lot of tasks. Orders go directly to the kitchen, reducing the chance of errors. Payments can be processed seamlessly through the phone, speeding up table turnover. And because menus are digital updates, can be made instantly, saving time and money on printing costs.
It sounds like QR codes could be a win-win for both restaurants and customers.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about those customers who might not be as comfortable with the technology or simply prefer a traditional dining experience. How do restaurants cater to those needs?
Well, that's where I think that hybrid approach comes in. Offer both QR code and traditional menus and let the customer choose what works best for them. It's about flexibility and inclusivity.
I love that inclusivity because technology should enhance the dining experience. It shouldn't create barriers.
Exactly. And let's not forget about those, unexpected moments when technology fails us.
Right.
The internet goes down, the phone battery dies. Yeah. Restaurants need to have a backup plan. a way to pivot back to those traditional methods if needed.
So it's about having a plan A, a plan B, maybe even a plan C just in case.
Exactly. Being prepared for anything is key to a smooth dining experience, whether you're using QR codes or sticking with pen and paper.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about design, data privacy, workflow efficiency, and even catering to different customer preferences. But I think it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture. Are QR code menus just a fad, or are they here to stay?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And to answer that, I think we need to consider where the restaurant industry is heading in general. What are the trends that are shaping the future of dining?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Paint me a picture of this future. What does it look like?
Well, we're already seeing a shift towards more personalized experiences. This is driven by data and technology. Imagine walking into a restaurant and the menu automatically adjusts to your dietary preferences, your past orders, maybe even your mood that day.
A menu that can sense my mood. That's next level personalization. But seriously, what other trends are we seeing?
Well, automation's a big one. Robots are already being used in some kitchens for tasks like flipping burgers and preparing salads.
Wow.
This could free up human staff to focus on more complex tasks and provide better customer service.
So you're saying that one day my food might be cooked by a robot and delivered to my table by a drone?
It's not as far-fetched as it might seem. But beyond the specific technologies, I think the biggest shift we're seeing is a move towards greater convenience and efficiency.
Yeah.
Customers want things fast, they want things personalized, they want things seamless, and QR code menus are a part of that larger trend.
So it's not just about the QR codes themselves, it's about what they represent, a shift in how we interact with restaurants and how technology is shaping the dining experience.
Exactly, and that's why I think it's safe to say that QR codes or some form of digital menu technology are here to stay.
Right.
They're meeting a real need in this evolving landscape of the restaurant industry.
Okay, so the future of dining is looking pretty high-tech. But before we get too carried away with robots and personalized menus that can read our minds, I think we need to ground ourselves in the present. There's still a lot to unpack about how QR codes are being used today and some important considerations for both restaurants and customers.
You're absolutely right. We've covered a lot of theoretical ground, but it's time to bring it back to the real world.
And that's exactly what we'll be doing in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about, QR code menus from their humble beginnings as a contactless solution during the pandemic to, their potential to completely revolutionize the dining experience.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. And as we wrap up this, exploration of QR codes, I think it's important to remember that this technology isn't just limited to restaurants.
Okay, now you've piqued my curiosity. We've been so focused on food and dining this whole time. Where else are we seeing these QR codes popping up?
Well, think about museums.
Okay.
Instead of those bulky audio guides, they always seem to run out of batteries at the worst possible moment.
Yeah.
You could just scan a QR code next to an exhibit and access all sorts of additional information.
Yeah.
Videos, historical context, even interactive elements that could, bring the exhibit to life.
That would definitely make museums more engaging, especially for younger generations who are so used to getting information at their fingertips.
Exactly. And it's not just about making things more interesting. It's about accessibility, too.
Right.
Imagine a museum offering multilingual information through QR codes, making the exhibits accessible to a wider audience.
That's a great point. It breaks down language barriers and makes the whole experience more inclusive. I'm starting to see how these little squares have the potential to be so much more than just a way to order food.
Yeah.
Where else?
Think about retail. Imagine scanning a QR code on a clothing tag to see, different color options, read customer reviews, or even access virtual styling tips.
So it's like having a personal shopper right there in your pocket. That's pretty cool. And I bet retailers would love all the data that they could collect on customer preferences and buying habits.
Absolutely. Opens up a whole new world of targeted marketing and personalized recommendations. But again, we have to consider those data privacy implications and make sure customers are comfortable with how their information is being used.
Right, because nobody wants to feel like they're being tracked and analyzed every time they scan a QR code. It's all about finding that balance between convenience and privacy.
Exactly. But let's move beyond retail for a second. Think about how QR codes could be used in healthcare. Patients could scan a code to access their medical records, schedule appointments, or even get personalized health information and reminders.
That could be a game changer for people, managing chronic illnesses or just trying to stay on top of their health goals. It puts a lot of power in the hands of the patient.
Exactly. And it can also streamline communication between patients and healthcare providers, leading to better care and outcomes.
I'm starting to realize just how versatile this technology is. We've talked about museums and retail healthcare. Where else could we see QR codes making an impact?
Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Education, tourism, even real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine scanning a QR code on a for sale sign to get a virtual tour of the property without even having to step inside.
Wow. We've gone from talking about contactless menus to revolutionizing entire industries. My mind is officially blown.
And that's the beauty of technology, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has the power to completely transform the way we live, work, and interact with the world around us.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that QR codes are just a tool. It's up to us as consumers and as a society to decide how we want to use that tool and what kind of future we want to create with it.
That's a great point. It's not about blindly embracing technology. It's about using it thoughtfully and ethically to make our lives better.
Exactly. And I think this deep dive has given us all a lot to think about in that regard.
It certainly has. So, to our listeners, the next time you see one of those little black and white squares, don't just dismiss it as a, trendy gimmick. Take a moment to think about the possibilities that it holds. You might be surprised at what you discover.
And remember, the future is not something that just happens to us. It's something that we create together through the choices that we make and the technologies that we embrace.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of QR code menus and beyond. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.